On April 25th, it was a beautiful day. It had a light shower in the morning, and I was on the first floor of the house. It was the beginning of the academic year, so I was really excited what to take to the classes, how I was going to welcome the students, and I had just said goodbye to my sister on Viber. Something very weird happened. I felt a tremor. But I was confused because I was not sure whether it was a tremor or I was feeling dizzy. Because what happens in villages, गाउँहरुको घरमा चाहिँ रातो माटो र चट्टानले बनेको भएर what happens is like when a healthy person climbs up the ladder to come to the first floor, actually it moves. So I thought there is someone in the house. So to find out who is in the home, I took 2 steps forward towards the door. And it was already late. The tremor started to grow stronger. And the whole house started shaking. And in no time, it felt like a plane shuddering in the turbulence. And within 3 or 4 seconds, I literally saw the whole house came crashing on me. The walls were falling on me. The floor beneath my feet was gone. I was in the mid-air falling down, and still I couldn't figure out, was it a nightmare or is it a reality? I was confused. Then I hit the ground with a loud thud. Damn! And I was unconscious for 3 or 4 seconds. When I opened my eyes, I saw that I was buried under the rubble up until my chin. Only my eyes and my head was just above the ground. I was stuck and buried in the rubble, just in a position I fell. My hands and legs were in 4 different directions. My left hand was crushed between 2 wooden door frames, and my left leg was crunched between rocks, and I was in excruciating pain. At that point, I started looking around. What exactly happened? It took a time to really register. Actually, it was an earthquake. I looked around for help, but there was no one. Dust all around. I could hear people wailing, shouting, crying for help. And at that point, I realized that even though someone comes for help, I might not be discovered. Or no one might come to help me because I was very new. I was just 1 year. I stayed there for a year. So I had no hope. At that point, multiple times I tried to move, but I couldn't move an inch. And that moment felt like a decade. And I could literally see myself dwindling between life and death. The pain, the fear, the feeling of helplessness, I cannot even express in words how I felt at that point, one of the most nightmarish experiences of my life. After some time, a woman from neighborhood arrived. She was scanning through the environment what happened, and then she saw me. Then she started shouting and crying for help. At that very moment, my host family, the member of the community, everyone left anything they were doing and came rushing towards me. The whole house was crumbled into dust. There was nothing. Kuto, kodalo, nothing was there. But what they did was amazing. They started digging out with their bare hand. They were trying to rescue me safely. But I remained stubbornly stuck in the rubble. I was born and brought up in Chitwan as one of the eldest daughter among 4. While growing up, I vividly remember that my parents used to celebrate every small achievement me and my siblings had, and it has a huge impact on me, especially on what kind of woman I became later. What I realized in my mind as a really, really young Drishya, I thought that if I work really, really hard, I can achieve something. And if I achieve something, my parents will be happy. And that thing really drove me throughout my life. And I became this really achievement-oriented person. I continued my school in Chitwan, did really well in college, and was able to secure full scholarship in a university in Bangladesh. And I would always be grateful to the opportunity I had in the university, and I will always be proud to be introduce myself as the part of the university. But by the end of the university years, I had already become this person who cannot function without plan. Uncertainty was a big no-no. I would completely remove it from my dictionary. I wanted to be safe. Everything needed to be in a plan and everything. I thought that university life was a major turning point in my life because I was extremely grateful. But I never knew that another major turning point was waiting right in the corner. As my graduation weeks were approaching near, I also had a diary. Secretly, I had a plan, 10 years long plan. I knew exactly what I was going to do after my graduation, when I was going to get married, do my PhD, my master's, and so on. It's crazy, I know that. But one day, I sat down to reflect what I have done in my life and what are the arena I really needed to explore now onwards. I sat down, looked at my life. All I could see was accolades, achievements, literature, and theory. My major was in Asian studies, and it was heavily leaned toward development studies. So poverty, gender inequity, women empowerment, development, politics, these were all part of my course. But major realization was that I had no idea what was happening in the real world. I was in this cocoon where everything was fine, neatly planned, everything on time, but I had no idea what was going on. I had never met a student who would walk for hours in empty stomach and come to the class. I've never met a woman for whom what does really domestic violence look like? What is poverty there in the rural area? How people in the villages consider education. Do they really value it? I had no idea about it. I was from Tarai and I had never been to Pahad. This realization really hit me. I felt like I was lying to myself. I was representing, I'm from Nepal, in the international platform and everything. But I had no idea what was going on in the ground level. That emptiness really hit me. And at that point, I decided that I was going to go back after my graduation and I will work in a village, not in Kathmandu, not in Chitwan. But I had no idea where, how, when. And also, even after having this deeper realization, halting my 10 years long plan and completely taking a U-turn was not that easy. One day I was going through these websites. I came across this mind-boggling data. So it mentioned that 80% of the students who appears in SLC examination every year, they were from public schools, and almost 80% of them fails every year. And I had no idea about it. I felt like, what is happening? This organization, did they really fabricate the data to really attract the people, or is it real? I had no idea about it. And I couldn't even believe. In complete disbelief and very me, I started doing research. And every data and the research I found pointed towards the data I just discovered. That is when I decided, Teach for Nepal Fellowship is the platform I'm going to begin with. Teach for Nepal Fellowship experience was one of the eye-opening experience for me. I still remember me and my co-fellow, we were just dropped in a village in the community we were placed in. And when I looked around in the village, I felt like all the characters and places and faces were coming alive from different storybooks that I read while growing up, like Basai, Manko Katha, and all that. Like small tea shops, the way people have a conversation, Chautariko Gafka, the way they greet at each other, the lifestyles they had, the language they used, and everything felt like I read it somewhere else, but I was experiencing it for the completely first time. And those experiences was one of the most cherished moments for me so far. Throughout this journey, there was one particular person who was and will always be one of the most important person for me. She was my co-fellow, co-traveler, my friend, and almost like my elder sister. She was Sujita. This woman from Udaipur, very cheerful, full of life, kind, feisty, and fierce. I didn't know about her when we had a training, just we started our fellowship. But I heard that there is a lady who had joined our cohort, who just got married and came to the training just after 2 days. And I could not believe. And one day someone was pointing, she's the one. And I just went straight to her and asked, are you the one who just got married and came to the training? And she had this big smile and said, yes. And at that point I was like, wow, what kind of commitment is that? You would come just after your wedding? Wow, I really admire you. I always had this admiration for her, but we never got to have a conversation throughout our training. But when we were placed in the same school, during our fellowship, we started having conversation, a lot of conversation. During our fellowship, we used to have a conversation during our weekends. She used to be this very cheerful lady who tries to help me throughout. She was the cheerleader at the forefront for me, always there. And we used to have a conversation, how does it feel to be a woman, about life, about fellowship, about a student, and everything. And we used to spend nights where we would watch Sujita's wedding video, and she would be explaining what are the rituals and what is the meaning of the song that was going on in the background and everything. That moments were really beautiful. On April 25th, I was rescued by a community member and my host family, but I lost Sujita. When I got this news, I was in complete disbelief. I could not believe. I understand how I was buried in the rubble and everything, but she was this brave, strong, and really feisty young woman. I knew that she would escape it somehow. But I could not accept this reality for a really, really long time. I went completely blank. It took almost a year for me to really accept the reality that she was gone. She was gone, never to be returned. And it took me 2 years, I think I should count 4 years now, to really stand in front of people and even utter the name of Sujita and retell the incident without shedding any tears, and I completely proved myself wrong now. During the time of my recovery, I had this choice to continue with my fellowship or to discontinue, whether to go back or not to go back. Every people I met, whoever came to meet me and every circumstances, everyone would give me reason why it would be a bad idea to go back. And I was torn between this emotion and practicality. I had no idea how to make decision. What will happen if I return back? I just survived. What will happen if I die? What will happen? I'll get into another trouble in the way. Will there be anyone next time to save me? I did not want to be in the same position where I was completely helpless, stuck up to my chin. I freaked out even thinking about it. But how could I even turn my back to those people who gave me second life? I'm here, standing in front of everyone. I was there recovering at my home because of them. They literally left everything to rescue this person who has lived in the village for only a year. I've heard how people would just completely ignore the neighbor who are dying in this situation, and they would go to rescue their buffaloes and cows. But my community people, my host family didn't do that. Even my student, they came to rescue me. And what kind of a teacher I would be? What kind of example I'll be setting to them if I'll be running when everyone is trying to cope with this situation and I'm running away? I had literally seen my students and community member houses crumple to dust. Everyone was starting from zero. I'd seen old men, women, kids, everyone spending days under the open sky. And they were okay doing that. They were struggling every day. If I ask you one question, how was your childhood? Most of us will be saying we had this completely well-ironed uniform, well-combed hair, polished shoes, bagfuls of textbook. Every new academic year we had new books. That is very normal childhood, right? Most of us had similar childhood. But no, I disagree with you. It's not normal, actually. It's a privilege. Way beyond our comfort zone, there are thousands of students for whom this normal is a privilege. And it was not fair. Especially it was not fair to our students because they really wanted to do something. I remember when Sujita and I went to the school, we realized how students used to come, empty stomach, with the torn back, half of the book is spilling, but they would collect it and occupy in their arms and would walk for hours and come to schools in their slippers. The uniforms are torn and hair undone, ill-fitted uniform and everything, but they were fine. They would just come, the enthusiasm to get the education, to come to the class and to see the teacher or even to study, to learn something. That excitement was there. And when Sujita and I decided we had a vision for our students, to instill confidence, to provide exposure and opportunities to them, so that they start believing that they have equal potential as much as the student from Kathmandu private schools. If they dream and really work hard, they can achieve it. But after the earthquake, I was the only one who knew about it. And we were several steps behind. Thus, I decided to go back to continue with my fellowship for Sujita's and my vision and for the student and community. After Teach for Nepal fellowship, I continue working with Teach for Nepal as a leadership development manager to understand more communities, to ensure quality education to more students, and to assure the kind of support to the fellows that I got during my own fellowship. If I hadn't gone, my life would have been in a completely different direction. I might be following my plan, 10 years long plan. I might not be in Nepal or definitely not in the field of education. But since I had gone back, I have learned to become more grateful to every moment, every people I meet, the life I touch, the people who touch my life. And I have learned to have courage, to be courageous, to accept and embrace uncertainty. I have learned to believe that uncertainty gives you a choice to be paralyzed by fear or to be inspired to action. I choose the latter one, and this is my story. Thank you.